the summer break in Formula 1, an opportunity for all the teams and drivers to put their feet up and relax while us fans rediscover what a weekend is and reconnect with family and friends. However, not even 1 week into the summer break and the F1 silly season has just been reignited with a bang. On Friday, it was confirmed that Daniel Ricciardo is joining the Renault team from 2019 onwards, joining Nico Hulkenberg and shocking the world by leaving a race-winning car in the Red Bull. This means Red Bull are now in the market for a number 2 driver, and a number of other teams frantically working out who to put in their car for next season. I'm Alex from MotorView, and this is a breakdown of all the likely driver lineups for the 2019 season. With Ricciardo joining Renault from next season, where does that leave Carlos Sainz? For weeks there was already speculation that his seat was under threat from Esteban Ocon, who we'll come to shortly, and if Ricciardo had re-signed with Red Bull then he would be short of options. With this latest announcement, however, Sainz has a fantastic opportunity to push his way into that second Red Bull seat. Sainz has been on loan from Red Bull for the last year, and with the possibility of a seat opening up in 2019, it seems like an obvious choice for Red Bull. However, putting Sainz into the second seat at Red Bull does have its issues, primarily the man he would be teammates with, one Max Verstappen. Now, both men were evenly matched in their Toro Rosso days, but Christian Horner and Helmut Marko won't have forgotten the highly combustible partnership the pair endured in the 2015 season. With that in mind, it seems as if Red Bull are leaning towards another junior in their ranks, Pierre Gasly. Not only does Gasly have no prior history with Verstappen, but he also has valuable experience driving in a Honda-powered car. This would also appeal to Honda, who have clearly been enjoying having a driver complement the work they do as opposed to the years of bashing from McLaren. Oh, how they sorely needed a break. So if Gasly does take the second Red Bull seat, it's back to square one for Carlos Sainz. But all hope is not lost for the Spaniard, as it appears that serious talks have been taking place with McLaren. Now, as complicated as the Red Bull situation was, the McLaren driver lineup is more difficult to figure out than a Millennium Prize puzzle, and that is all because of one man, Fernando Alonso. Will he stay in Formula 1 for another season, or will he go? Not even Fernando knows the answer to that. Let's say Fernando does stay. McLaren are then presented with 3 serious options for the number 2 seat. The easiest option would be Stoffel Van Dorn. He is currently occupying that second seat, and with his recent poor form being put down to a dodgy chassis, you feel as if the team at least owe him another season. After all, wasn't this the man to be the next Fernando Alonso to Zach Brown? If McLaren though decide Van Dorn hasn't done enough to keep his seat, then Carlos Sainz appears to be the perfect candidate to put in his place. He's got a good relationship with Alonso, he's proven his pace over the 4 years he's been in the sport, and he looks good in orange. Okay, that's just a guess, but come on. Those eyebrows would look good in any colour. Sainz isn't McLaren's only choice to replace Van Dorn though, as they have a very promising junior driver currently tearing it up in F2, Lando Norris. Norris has driven multiple tests for the team, most recently at the Budapest test following the Hungarian Grand Prix. He is the current F3 European champion and could even walk away with the F2 title at the end of this season. The early indications are, however, that Lando is to spend another year in F2 should he not win the title, but be handed several Friday practices with the team come 2019, or potentially be handed the drive elsewhere. But what happens if Fernando Alonso does leave McLaren? At that point, it would almost be a certainty that Carlos Sainz would be handed one of the seats at McLaren, with him being seen as a guaranteed quantity over the likes of Van Dorn and Norris. Then the second seat would seem to come down to Van Dorn or Norris. If Norris does win the F2 title and Fernando leaves, then expect him to get fast-tracked into McLaren's seat for 2019, while poor Van Dorn has to look elsewhere. But hold on, there's more. With Fernando leaving McLaren in this scenario, the team would be drastically lacking an experienced driver in the ranks. There were rumours circulated earlier in the season that Kimi Räikkönen was in line to potentially rejoin the Woking-based team in which he drove for from 2003-2006, but those rumours appear to have faded away, with the latest driver being lined up as, wait for it, Romain Grosjean. Yes, the crash-happy Frenchman has certainly not had the best of seasons and has killed off any hopes of that coveted Ferrari seat and looks set to be forced out of the Haas team, but a lifeline could become available at McLaren should Fernando leave. Romain brings a wealth of experience with him and has been a proven podium-winning driver. Just look back at his 2013 Lotus season. He would also fit that radio whining slot vacated by Fernando. Now, speaking of Haas, their driver situation seems to hang on what happens with the second Ferrari seat. If Raikkonen keeps his seat, then it is likely we will see Leclerc bumped up to partner Kevin Magnussen, who is almost guaranteed to stay on in 2019. But if Ferrari do put Leclerc into their car, then the second seat at Haas gets a bit more interesting. As mentioned previously, it seems as if Grosjean will be leaving at the end of the season, but the Frenchman may yet be kept on. Then there's, yes you guessed it, Carlos Sainz. The young Spaniard is linked with just about every midfield team at the moment, with Haas presenting itself as probably the best outcome for Sainz should Red Bull go for Gasly. The American outfit will almost certainly be supplied with a modified 2018 Ferrari for the 2019 season, and that's not a bad car whatsoever. At this time, Haas doesn't appear to be looking at any other drivers, but they are reportedly set to offer Pietro Fittipaldi a test once he has fully recovered from a broken leg that was caused by a crash in an LMP1 car around Spa. Pietro, being the grandson of Emerson Fittipaldi, would bring a high level of publicity to the team, especially in the American market. However, that's more of a 2020 rumour, so let's leave that to the side for now. Another team that's driver lineup depends on circumstances out with the team is Force India. With the team being placed into administration during the Hungarian Grand Prix weekend, it threw up all sorts of questions about the team's abilities to stay in the sport. It does appear that the Silverstone-based team will still be around in 2019, but most likely under a new name. With everything that's transpired, it appears almost certain that Sergio Perez will stay on given all he's done to try and save them. But yet again, the issue comes down to the number 2 seat in the team. As mentioned earlier, Esteban Ocon had seemed almost certain to take the Renault seat until Daniel Ricciardo's announcement to join the French team. This leaves Ocon's future out of his own hands. There's no doubt he has done enough this season to keep his seat at the team based on performances alone, but the largest rumour going around right now is that multi-billionaire Lawrence Stroll is one of the prime figures looking to buy the team. Should he succeed, well, then we all know who will be racing in that team next season, his son, Lance Stroll. Now, Lance does show a lot of promise, look no further than Baku and Monza last season, but he has been significantly hampered by the Williams car of 2018. And even if his dad does not fully purchase the current Force India team, then expect there to be a large cash offering to get Lance into a car that is significantly better than the Williams. But where does this leave Williams? Well, despite not exactly setting the world alight in his debut season, Sergei Sirotkin does appear to be liked within Williams, and unlike teammate Stroll, he has not been bashing the car over the radio and seems genuinely interested in pushing forwards to find success. This does not mean he is 100% guaranteed to stay on in 2019, but it's certainly a favourite to be driving that Williams for another season. The second Williams seat doesn't appear to have many drivers jumping at it, but there is certainly a couple of people who will be interested. Firstly would be Esteban Ocon. Yes, this would likely be a step backwards from his current position, but he may have no other choice. Williams and Mercedes have enjoyed a solid partnership over the past few seasons, and it would seem like the obvious choice to keep Esteban in Formula 1. And then there's the man everyone would love to see back in a racing car full time, Robert Kubica. Robert has been out of the sport since the start of 2011 following a horrific rallying crash in which his left arm suffered serious damage. Robert has been picking up experience in the last couple of seasons, driving multiple test sessions for Renault and Williams, but he was overlooked last season in favour of Sirotkin after Williams felt he wasn't up to speed yet. He has stayed on as a test driver for this season and has certainly put himself in the frame for drive in 2019. But it's not only Esteban Ocon who could cause an issue for Kubica and his potential return to Formula 1. Oh no. As mentioned earlier, Mercedes enjoy a close working relationship with Williams, and they have another driver who will potentially require an F1 seat next season in George Russell. Russell is currently leading the F2 Drivers' Championship, and should he win, he'll have to leave the series and find a drive elsewhere. Mercedes themselves are very keen on Russell, getting him multiple tests and practice sessions with the Force India team. It seems almost impossible now for him to get a drive there, but Williams is a different story. It would mean choosing Russell over Ocon for Mercedes, but given the amount of times we've seen Russell stood by Toto Wolff's side in that Mercedes garage, make no mistake who the German outfit fancy for the future. Now, thankfully, not every team is quite so complicated. Sauber are almost certain to lose Leclerc to either Ferrari or Haas next season and have all but confirmed that Marcus Ericsson will be retained in 2019. He may not be highly regarded by fans, but the team have a good working relationship with him, so why get rid of him? Again, there have been a couple of rumours about Kimi Räikkönen switching back to the team where it all started, but those rumours have been thrown away by Kimi and Frederic Vasseur, the Sauber team boss. The most likely outcome is that we will see Antonio Giovinazzi being finally given a full-time opportunity in Formula 1. In 2017, he stepped in to replace Pascal Wehrlein when the German was out injured at the start of the season and showed impressive pace, but following 2 crashes at China that year, he was shuffled down in Ferrari's junior driver program. But following a very successful Budapest test where he went quicker than Kimi Räikkönen in the Ferrari when both were running the Hypersofts, expect him to be given the second Sauber seat. As much as things should be straightforward in Formula 1, they very rarely are, so keep an eye on Alfa Romeo Sauber in case they decide to throw a blinder and sign Fernando Alonso and Kimi Räikkönen. Just kidding, that would be ridiculous. Now, finally, that leaves us with a sister team to Red Bull, who started this whole thing, Toro Rosso. As with McLaren, we have to look at this based on if their number 1 driver stays or go. Should Gasly stay at Toro Rosso for another season because Red Bull have signed Carlos Sainz, then expect Brendan Hartley to be given the boot out of the team. However, who takes his seat remains a mystery. The Red Bull Junior program is short of drivers right now, with F3 driver Dan Tickton being Red Bull's favoured junior driver to get promoted into the Toro Rosso. but the young Brit doesn't have enough points to earn a super license to simply drive an F1 car at a test, let alone have a full-time seat in Toro Rosso. This all stems back to a moment of madness back in 2015, where he overtook multiple cars under the safety car before deliberately crashing into his rival. Oh, how that has come back to haunt him now. So, with Red Bull lacking any potential drivers from their own academy, they've had to look at someone else's junior setup, and that someone's been McLaren and their driver, Lando Norris. Now, early in the season, Helmut Marko approached McLaren about putting Norris into the Toro Rosso mid-season, but this was rebuffed by McLaren as Red Bull wanted Norris to leave the Woking team completely. Since then, McLaren have been open to the idea of loaning out Norris to another team should they feel it is the right move for him. Should that be Toro Rosso, then this would be a good deal for all parties involved. Red Bull are given another season to push new junior drivers forward, Toro Rosso get a very capable and exciting young driver into their team, McLaren get to see their man in the big leagues and can properly evaluate him for his drive in 2020, and Norris gets to be in Formula 1. Now, it would be much the same story if Gasly gets promoted to Red Bull next season, however. Sainz has made it clear he does not want to go back to the B team, so expect him to part ways with Red Bull completely. Brendan Hartley would be retained because Red Bull simply have no other options, which I think is a good thing because he's shown solid pace when his car has worked, but Mr. Marko just doesn't seem to like him, and Lando Norris would likely be handed the seat alongside the Kiwi. This situation takes on a whole new level of complications, however, if McLaren throw caution to the wind and promote Norris to the orange car immediately. What do Toro Rosso and Red Bull do then? Well, they have no other choice but to break their tradition of taking on junior drivers and bring on a driver who is already in the sport. They're not short on options either. Van Dorn, Ocon and Grosjean could all be looking for a seat come the end of 2018, so expect Franz Tost's phone to be going off at all hours of the night. With that all said and done, these are my predictions for the 29 driver lineup in Formula 1. At Ferrari, Sebastian Vettel and Kimi Räikkönen. Red Bull, Max Verstappen and Pierre Gasly. McLaren, Fernando Alonso and Carlos Sainz. Haas, Kevin Magnussen and Charles Leclerc. Force India, Sergio Perez and Lance Stroll. Toro Rosso, Brendan Hartley and Lando Norris. Williams, Sergei Sorokin and Esteban Ocon. Sauber, Marcus Ericsson and Antonio Giovinazzi. And of course, we already know Mercedes and Renault's lineups for next year. Do you agree with my predictions for the 2019 season? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed this video, then please leave a like and subscribe to motivate you for more weekly content.